Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. As you are aware, if you have been following the Idaho versus Kohberger case for any length of time, Mr. Kohberger was not in the Washington/Idaho vicinity on the day of his arrest on December 30th, 2022. As a college student, he, like many other college students, went home for the Christmas, New Year's holidays at the end of 2022 in December, and that's where he was arrested. He was arrested at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, which is near the Pocono Mountains and is located in Monroe County. Just as there is an affidavit of probable cause signed by Detective Brett Payne on December 29, 2022, that led directly to Mr. Kohberger's arrest warrant being issued in Idaho. There's also an affidavit of probable cause in Pennsylvania that exists and that is not readily available on the Idaho cases of judicial interest. You have to go and look for them. I provided a link to where you can pull down the paperwork from the matter that was opened in Pennsylvania in 2022 and early 2023 to the time when Mr. Kohberger waived extradition and was returned to Idaho. That happened in early January 2023. But directing your attention to the Affidavit of Probable Cause in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, this is the document. This is the affidavit for a warrant that led to Mr. Kohberger's arrest, to the search and seizure of items from his parents' home in Albrightsville, to the search and seizure of his white Hyundai Elantra, and to the items that were in his parents' house that belonged to him and that were inventoried, as well as items taken from his person, such as swabs. These were all requested from the Moscow Police Department, and efforts were coordinated between Moscow and Monroe County, Pennsylvania State Police as well. If you look at the Pennsylvania Affidavit of Probable Cause, you'll see that it was signed by the affiants are Pennsylvania State Trooper Justin M. Leri and Pennsylvania State Trooper Brian V. Knoll. And just like Detective Payne, they sign a statement under penalty of perjury that the items in the affidavit that's being presented to the judge is true and correct, and that they are swearing to this information under penalty of perjury. It is signed by both on the 29th of December 2022. This was one day before Mr. Kohberger's arrest in Pennsylvania the following morning, early morning hours of the 30th of December 2022. Notably, this affidavit of probable cause at paragraph 3 states, Wednesday, December 28th, 2022, that date, the Pennsylvania State Police was requested to assist the Moscow Police Department of Moscow, Idaho, and also the FBI with a homicide investigation, which occurred on Sunday, November 13th, 2022. As part of this investigation, we reviewed reports and affidavits prepared by the Moscow Police Department establishing probable cause of issuance of search warrants related to this investigation, which are included in this affidavit of probable cause as Exhibit A. The only thing that's attached to the item that says Affidavit of Probable Cause as Exhibit A is the item that's going to look very familiar to you. It is the Statement of Brett Payne that has been referred to as the Affidavit of Probable Cause. It's really not an affidavit per se, because an affidavit will have a notary signature. It will have some attestation that the notary administered an oath and some identification, or that this person was personally known to the notary public, and you'll see the notary seal at the end next to the affiant's signature. You don't see that in the document that we call the Brett Payne PCA. It appears, in my opinion, to be more of what's called a declaration, which is an unsworn statement. Still holds up in many cases, and it still comes with penalty of perjury. So the affiant, the person who is making the statement, must do so under penalty of perjury. This document, signed by the two state troopers, go on to say that, furthermore, investigators began physical surveillance of the property and area of the house on Lambston Drive in Chestnut Hill Township, and that's located in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. And in the early morning hours of December 27th, 2022, this is 2 days before the PCA was signed in Idaho, and 3 days before Mr. Kohberger's arrest, that the two state troopers here observed Brian Kohberger walking near this residence. Additionally, Kohberger's vehicle was observed entering the Indian Mountains Lakes development. That's where the home was located, in this development, on December 16th, 2022, and the vehicle is still believed to be on the premises. Investigators are also monitoring Kohberger's cellular phone, which appears to be in the same vicinity of this residence. On Wednesday, December 28th, while conducting surveillance, investigators observed Kohberger traveling through Monroe County and arriving back at his residence on Lambston Drive. Your affiants are requesting a search warrant to be issued for the search and seizure of all items listed in the items to be searched, along with forensic processing of all items. Your affiants are requesting all digital devices, including any vehicle information/computer system, seized, be forensically examined in a controlled environment at some future date, and until such examinations are complete. Additionally, based on the serious and violent nature of these crimes, including risk of general public safety, your affiants are requesting a nighttime search warrant be issued to execute this search warrant at any time, and the Affidavit of Probable Cause be sealed. So we're seeing here that the two state troopers who signed this Pennsylvania Affidavit of Probable Cause is asking special permission from the judge who's going to be looking at this affidavit, that they be provided with this special permission to conduct an nighttime, an evening, and overnight. When they actually entered the property was at approximately 1:30 a.m. on the 30th of December 2022. They did so because they got permission from the judge to do that. Now, if you look at what is attached, it's going to look very, very familiar to you if you've read the Affidavit of Probable Cause signed by Brett Payne in any detail. First, Exhibit A says Statement of Brett Payne, and it goes into, for the first several pages, what you see on the Moscow PCA. The only difference here is that the information that was redacted from the Idaho PCA that's listed as document number 1 on the case public docket has redacted names, things appearing as initials. That is unredacted here. If you look at page 2, you will see that the medical examiner's name, for example, it completely appears here. It is redacted in the Idaho version of this PCA. At the bottom of this page, you will see that the two surviving roommates, who were only known by their initials and called by their initials in the Moscow PCA, their names are unredacted. And then later on, when you get to the page dealing with the private driver who picked up Kaylee and Madison at the grub truck and brought them to 1122 King Road, brought them home, his name is unredacted. Further down, unfortunately, this attachment is not numbered, but it does say here at the bottom, some of the pages are, some are not numbered. If you go to page 22, you will see some additional information that you don't see in the Moscow PCA that's on the court docket. It begins the second paragraph. Based off the above information, I am seeking a search warrant for Kohberger's person, his parents' residence located at, gives the address in Lambston Drive. The home is described as a single-family, two-story residence, white in color. There's a two-car garage, and so he gives some information. This is Detective Brett Payne who does about the house. It is also believed Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra, and it's notated here in parentheses, suspect vehicle 1, is stored in the two-car garage on the west side of the residence. Based off the above facts, I am requesting a search warrant for Kohberger's white 2015 Hyundai Elantra bearing the VIN number. And as you start to see this information, you recognize that some of this information that's contained in this document in support of the Pennsylvania PCA is part of motions to suppress evidence and possibly part of the Franks hearing motion that Mr. Kohberger is currently seeking and recently filed. This is before Judge Stephen Hippler. Then he goes into the next page and begins to describe some things that are not included in the Idaho PCA. He talks about electronic devices. If a device is equipped with a fingerprint scanner, a user may enable the ability to unlock it. If a device is equipped with a facial recognition feature, a user may enable the ability to unlock the device through his or her face. So it seemed as though there was a lot of interest in getting certain items not just seized, but hopefully unlocked. Then he goes on to say that users of electronic devices often enable the aforementioned biometric features because they are considered to be a more convenient way to unlock a device than by entering a numeric or alphanumeric passcode or password. Nothing like this appears anywhere within the PCA that we're familiar with that Detective Payne signed on the 29th of December 2022. Goes on to say, as discussed in this affidavit, which is really not an affidavit, as we've said before, in our opinion, based on my training and experience, I believe that one or more digital devices will be found during the search. And if you go to the very last page, it continues in the next couple of pages talking about these devices, how to unlock them, and why he wants them. You will see that there is a big black X on the last page where it appears that some information may have been redacted, or perhaps Detective Payne stopped typing at a certain point, but at least attached to the Pennsylvania search warrant, there's no signature block like we see in the Affidavit of Probable Cause, as they call it, that led to the criminal complaint being sworn out by Mr. Thompson and then leading to the arrest warrant and the order of probable cause being rendered by Judge Megan E. Marshall. All of that happened on the 29th of December 2022. So there's some things here that are a little bit different and providing us with some information as to what possibly, and again, we're giving our opinion here, so many of the cases, so many of the documents are under seal, may be relied upon in the Franks motion if this is part of the Franks motion. We don't know because the exhibits to that motion are under seal. If you would like to review this document, this is the Pennsylvania PCA and other items that were rendered in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Brian Kohberger case, please follow the link that I have provided in the description to this episode, and you can read it for yourself. Thank you as always for joining us here today.